Hi there, it's Derek from Pacific Coast Auto in Japan, and this is a 1992 Suzuki Cappuccino. So the Cappuccino is a micro car, yellow plate here in Japan, also known as a K car. Maximum engine size is 660 cc, like under 1 liter. And then back in the late 80s, early 90s, there were a number of sports car K cars because they get really cheap registration here in Japan and can still be a lot of fun in the mountains. So this one here is a rear wheel drive, full convertible, and it's probably the universally known as the best of the K cars. The engine, the F6A, puts out 64 horsepower officially, but can be modified to over 100 horsepower fairly easily. And here's a little bit of fun information. Monster Motorsport there makes a kit for 100 horsepower, which is kind of cool that they had this sticker on. I was so excited until I realized that this car doesn't have that engine in it. I mean, they have a kit, it's like $2,500 or so. It comes with a different turbo, air filter, and computer. And you put them on and you get 100 horsepower with the same engine internals. And it tends to be pretty reliable and quite a bit faster than your regular 65 horsepower because the car only weighs, 700 kilos or maybe even less than that. Okay, so the engine is running a little bit low in RPMs and a little bit shaky. And so something needs to be worked out in that. Now we can send it to a shop here in Japan if you want, or you can export it as is. It could be that the car just needs a good run-in, and then it'll be better. Timing belt was changed on it, but the gauges have been changed, so we don't know when. This one here says 64,740. The odometer says 34,000, and the note here says that the odometer has been changed on this car. Both the oil and the coolant look to be okay. Coolant, you're going to want to replace it. It looks like it's rather on the older side, and you don't really know how powerful that is. Aftermarket air filter here. Got a strut tower bar. And the car has a number of modifications to it. I wouldn't be surprised if at one point it had the 100 horsepower engine, because it kind of looks like the type of car that would have it. And it's not an uncommon modification. Now we have these hood pins, and they do work, but the regular hood latch works as well. And unlike a lot of hood pins, these ones you can actually put in fairly easily. I don't know why, but hood pins over time get hard to open and close. Okay, so it was bought from auction for export to the USA under the 25-year rule. And this is a post-purchase inspection video. It's already been bought. This car's not for sale. Oh, and I'm going to turn off the engine just for now. I'll show you the exhaust first. So it is a 3-cylinder, and so you get a little bit of a lumpy sounding exhaust, but it revs to like 12,000 RPM, like a bike engine. And so it doesn't sound lumpy when you get up on the accelerator. This one, because it's idling low, sounds a little bit lumpier than it usually does. Okay. So let's have a quick look at the auction inspection sheet. I'm going to translate for you. This one has tons and tons of marks on it, so it's going to take a little bit longer than usual to translate this. But if you're interested in seeing the car instead of the information from the auction, then you can go ahead and skip this part. So it's a 1992 Cappuccino. Note that from 1993 they had 6-digit odometers, and then from 1992 and earlier it's 5-digit odometers. Now it was originally a gold color. It's been repainted to pearl white. This is an R grade because it's been in an accident. But here's something that I've seen about the Cappuccinos that have been in accidents. Is you take a look here, and it kind of is misaligned, and here, and it's kind of misaligned, and then here, and here. Even in the ones that haven't been in an accident, what I've seen is that they still appear to be just as misaligned as the ones that have been in accidents. In fact, I don't see any difference in this one, and from what I can tell, there's nothing about the visuals that make it look like it's been in an accident. Also, good to remember that an R grade doesn't mean a salvage title vehicle, and so if you're confused about that, then you can ask us. I don't really want to get into it every time. Okay, so it's purchased from user car, aftermarket exhaust, and wheels. The wheels are actually pretty cool. They stick out a little bit, so you get extra fender flares, so that they're compliant with Japanese regulations, which you can't have tires come out past the fenders. Okay, aftermarket front bumper and hood. I'm not going to get run over by the delivery guy, and so I'll show you the aftermarket hood here. It's a cool hood. Aftermarket side steps. It has a history paper of the clutch being replaced in August of this year. but they didn't replace. It says the clutch disc being replaced. They didn't replace any of the bearings inside, and so it makes a small sound when the clutch is out. When it's idling, when you put the clutch in, you don't hear any sound. So that's one of the two clutch bearings wasn't replaced. It is a shame. It's a light sound. You don't hear it that much because most of the time when the clutch is out, the car's moving, but it is there. And then here on the auction sheet, it says transmission makes a sound. I think they're referring to that bearing, not the transmission. And so with a mark like this on the auction sheet, you'll typically get a lower price for the car because most bidders are going to be like, ooh, transmission, I don't want to buy that. And then in this one, if it's just a bearing, I mean, that's not too difficult to replace. You do have to drop the transmission to do it, but it's much better than a broken transmission. Okay, 5-digit odometer, so the mileage is unknown, and this one is being sold as an unknown mileage car. Make sure you know about the star that's there. Speedometer and odometer. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't read this. Something about the speedometer and the odometer doesn't work. I've driven the car, both of those do work. It says the trip meter point lamp, or like lamp is on. Another thing I can't read. I'm sorry. If you're the owner of the car, make sure that you check the translation done by our Japanese staff instead of me. Comes with a toll collection box for Japanese highways. Being sold as a mileage unknown car. Rear accident repaired on this one. Interior is dirty, steering wheel is peeling, seat is saggy and has a cover on it that has rip in it. Various paint wave and uneven paint on the car. Really, the only place that I noticed it is the side skirts are a slight different color than the rest. But other than that, it looks fairly good, and pearl white looks great on these cars. Underside scratch, dented surface rust, and corrosion. The car's too low for me to find any corrosion, but I'm not surprised that it would be there because there is some other corrosion on the car, which I'll get to in a sec. Core support is dented. That would have been damaged from the accident. Left front inner panel has corrosion on it. I'll quickly show you this before I show you the rest of the car. Here and here. So it doesn't look too bad. But you do want to take off your side skirts just to make sure there's not more underneath them. Could very well have some damage on the sill. I don't know how long these side skirts have been on here, but the sills tend to be kind of a weak point for corrosion, and then side skirts can kind of hide that. It looks like these ones have been on there for a long time though. Rear panel and rear floor are bent. That's also accident damage. And then if you look at the body diagram here, we got minor scratches and dents on the sides. Really, they look really good, so no issues there. C2 here. There's actually a little bit here too. So C is corrosion, and then C1 on the roof. So let's have a quick look at that. Now, I don't know why they say there's C1 on the roof. Clearly that's not made out of metal, so it can't rust. But you get these weird little bubbles in the paint, which are confused for rust in some places. So I think that's what's happened. So no rust on these. And they are removable, and I think they do have some metal support in there at the parts where it clamps on, so it could be that those are a touch rusty. But all three of these pieces can come off, or you can do it T-bar roof style if you want to leave that center one on. And then this back window folds down to flush with the body to give you a full convertible, or you can do Targa, or you can do T-top. It's like they couldn't figure out which one that they wanted. And corrosion here. Okay. And here. And then there's some paint cracks there too. For the most part, the bumper is really good. It's a very low bumper, so prone to be damaged, but there's only some slight paint cracks in it there and there. Markers here have been, what do you call that? When you paint them black, but it's not real paint and the light can still come through. I don't know. Brain not working. Also, we have a shadow over the hood, which really annoys me right now. I started shooting it when the shadow was over here, and then it took too long for me to record on this one. Okay, so going down here, you can see some of the rust here has stained there. That comes from the inner panel. That homeboy is going too fast for this road. Big side skirts, big front bumper. Rear bumper is the original one. I quite like the look of it with the fender flares there to give you a slightly more aggressive wheel. This wheel here is actually bent on the lip, but only very slightly. Cool tail lights, tail light covers, for the original ones. And then one of my favorite spoilers here. I really like these cars with large spoilers on them. And then for a convertible, you kind of want a larger spoiler because you're messing up a lot of the airflow around the car if you have a convertible. So if you're the owner of this car and you're going to go take it out for like track days, put a big spoiler on it, super big. Okay, you already saw the aftermarket exhaust there, and then it has this aftermarket light, which if it were my car I'd take it off. Going down here you can see some of the paint wave, and then there are foot marks here from getting in and out of the car. The car has pretty high sills on it, so yeah, it's a bit of a challenge to get in and out of because it's a small car with high sills. You can see more of that bubbling. Okay, so open the door, seat covers on both of the seats. You can see they're a little bit baggy. The seat underneath might be ripped. There's some slight rips in the seat cover here. And then it has kind of a seat cover-y feel to it. Okay, door card's a bit damaged at the bottom here. Okay, and a smaller than normal steering wheel makes it the no power steering car a little bit harder to steer, but really not that much of a problem. But it does give you a lot more room inside the car if you're a bigger fellow or bigger lady. And it does feel like the 64 horsepower when I drove it, which is to say it's pretty peppy on the street. Look here. I don't know where it cuts you off, but these engines do rev higher than 85 sometimes. I know for a fact of that. So Momo steering wheel, quite small, looks like 30 centimeters. There's a little bit of damage here. RSR might be the suspension that's on it. I don't know. Sometimes people put stickers on, like this guy with his monster stickers. AC does work, so that's good. There's a little bit of damage here to the CD player, aftermarket CD player. Doesn't smell bad inside, like mold or cigarettes, so that's good. Aftermarket shift knob. I'm not one for metal shift knobs because it burned my hands, but then put on sweet racing gloves and then no problem. And it'd be funny to wear sweet racing gloves every time you get into the car. It'd be like a roadster from the 1930s where you put on your goggles and your leather helmet and your racing gloves. All right. Okay. Strut tower brace, that's aftermarket in the back there. And then there was the other aftermarket one in the front. Chassis seems pretty firm, which is something that you're going to worry about a bit when the car has been in an accident. You don't want something that's going to be shaky or rattly. This one seems to be okay. I suppose I'll show you the trunk. Kind of a small trunk, but compared to other K cars, it's not that small. Much bigger than a Honda Beat, but smaller than the Alto Works. And I love the Alto Works. If you're up for a front-wheel drive K car, then that's a fantastic vehicle. Okay, so you can see in there, has a floor mat in it. And something weird with the key, it's a little bit hard to turn in both the door lock and the ignition, but not impossible. I'd call it a 2 out of 10 in difficulty. You just have to pull it out like a millimeter when you turn it. Okay, so there it is, with a shadow on the hood. That's what happens when I shoot reports earlier in the day. Okay, so if you have any questions, let me know in the comments section. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and have a nice day.